and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. At a media conference in Halifax, Nova Scotia on Wednesday, the Transportation Safety Board of Canada released a report on the investigation of the capsizing of the fishing vessel Tie-Hawk. It happened off the coast of Cape Breton in April 2021 and resulted in the loss of 2 Mi'kmaq crew members. Master of the Tie-Hawk Craig Sock and 39-year-old crew member Seth Monaghan did not survive. According to Transport Canada's investigation, contributing factors included that the snow crab season opened too early and the vessel's stability was compromised with the addition of a deck used for snow crab fishing. There are 3 recommendations. Among them is improved inspections by a qualified person on boat modifications. Kathy Fox, chair of the safety board, says safety recommendations since 2010 have been sitting on the shelf.
How many more fish harvesters have to die before changes are made? Fish harvesters and operators don't need to wait for the regulator to take action. Being proactive, going beyond regulatory minimums, can save lives. I've said it before, but it bears repeating. Safety is a shared responsibility. We don't want to be sitting in this room again a year from now or 2 years from now, still talking about the same issues and the deaths that could have been prevented. Thank you.
For the 3rd consecutive year, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans and 4 Mi'kmaq nations in southwestern Nova Scotia have renewed an interim agreement to harvest lobster to earn a moderate livelihood, which happens to be in the most lucrative fishing area in the country. Community members of the 4 Mi'kmaq First Nations will harvest lobster and sell their catch under community-developed moderate livelihood fishing plans, but the authorized harvesters will do so with license issued by DFO. The Mi'kmaq fishers are expected to drop over 5,000 authorized traps during the commercial fishing season, the same number of traps as last year. DFO says this will not impact healthy lobster stocks. In Saskatchewan, the Prince Albert Grand Council is calling for supports from all levels of government to combat a drug crisis in the city of Prince Albert. This follows a report that suggests PA has the highest levels of illicit drugs in its wastewater in the country. As Tamara Pimentel reports, that includes meth.
According to a Statistics Canada study, the city of Prince Albert has the highest amounts of cocaine, meth, and amphetamines in its wastewater compared to other cities across the country. That's per capita. But the Prince Albert Grand Council says this issue goes beyond statistics. It's proof of an ongoing addictions crisis.
There just isn't enough services. Certainly, we are calling for them. There is no medical detox within Indigenous programming.
Joan Breland is the director of the Prince Albert Grand Council Holistic Wellness Centre, which provides substance use prevention using cultural practices. She says those efforts are challenged by the overwhelming demand.
Yes, we have our treatment centers that are full, long wait lists. The demand is so great and there isn't enough services and supports that are there.
In an email, Grand Chief Brian Hardlott says the issue is exacerbated by gang activity. He states in part, while the Prince Albert Police Service is diligently working to counteract the influence of gangs, it's clear that policing alone isn't enough. The Prince Albert Grand Council says it relies on the city's detox program, which is also running out of space, and it calls on governments of all levels to provide more resources.
Everything is just difficult to access and there's no support. We do what we can through prevention, one-to-one, and when it's difficult to cope, the reality for some individuals is just to escape. And we are doing our very best to intervene.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The province of Saskatchewan says their 2023-2024 budget includes over $500 million for mental health and addiction services, and more crystal meth treatment programs are being developed. In Winnipeg, an affordable housing building still under construction caught fire earlier this week. The 7-story building is owned by Opaskwayak Cree Nation. The block is located downtown near the University of Winnipeg. According to witnesses, the fire raged for about an hour before firefighters were able to get control. No one was inside the building and there are no injuries. The $17.4 million project suffered significant fire damage and smoke damage. It was meant to be affordable housing for students, families, and the elderly. It was expected to open in the summer of 2024. There's no word yet from OCN on what they plan to do. Indigenous leaders are praising Manitoba Premier Pqu first speech from the throne. Manitoba Kaweetnawi Okamakinak Grand Chief Garrison Settee said in a statement on Wednesday that he was optimistic with the changes announced in the speech. Settee said First Nations in northern Manitoba welcome the provincial government's plans to freeze hydro rates, lower fuel costs, and address healthcare, housing, and addictions. Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand said the throne speech marked a new era of partnership for the MMF and the province. One of the highlights of the speech from the throne was the announcement that Louis Riel will be recognized as the first Premier of Manitoba, something Chartrand says he has advocated for with at least 5 premiers.
Why did it take an Indigenous person to come along and do the right thing, to recognize an Indigenous Premier of this province? That's one of the things that makes me sad that it took that long. 153 years later, we're here correcting historical wrongs. And that was the sad part for me, but the proud part, it's real, it's there.
Another campaign commitment that was mentioned in the throne speech was making September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a statutory holiday in Manitoba, something the previous PC government decided against, saying there was no consensus among Indigenous communities.
It's a lot to do with our people and the healing of our people, and to be able to hear government acknowledge that it's going to be a statutory holiday means a lot to our people.
So Manitoba Premier Pqu announced a new bill that will recognize Métis leader Louis Riel as the honorary first Premier of Manitoba. Sav Jonza has more from the event.
Today, Manitoba Premier Pqu attempts to right a 153-year-old wrong.
It fills me with a great sense of humility to be able to announce today that our government's first piece of legislation will honor Louis Riel for what he has always been, the first Premier of Manitoba.
The new legislation seeks to recognize Louis Riel as the honorary first Premier of Manitoba. He led the provisional government that brought the province into confederation with the Manitoba Act in 1870. He was then hanged for treason in 1885 for his role in the Red River Resistance and Northwest Rebellion.
And at a very true and fundamental level, Louis Riel is the reason that we are Manitobans. And Louis Riel is the reason that we as Manitobans are also Canadians.
The bill will ask educators to teach of Louis Riel's contributions to the province.
And the reason that we have articulated things in this way is we want to honor Louis Riel's founding role in this province, but we also want future generations to understand that he was not always respected in this way, and that it has taken years of a fight on behalf of Métis people to see him properly respected and represented.
For Manitoba Métis Federation President David Chartrand, irony was not lost that introducing the bill is the province's first Premier of First Nations descent.
Why did it take an Indigenous Premier to do the right thing, to correct the right wrongs of a man that they murdered in this country, a great leader that we all admire today? It took an Indigenous leader to correct that. Why? Is that how far we're still behind regarding how we respect each other as different societies, minorities?
The bill still needs to be put to a vote before it can be official. President Chartrand has a word of warning for anyone who votes against it.
If you disrespect our leader that founded this province and got murdered in this country, that fought for this country, that died for this country, and now if you decide to dishonor him again after waiting 153 years, you will have an enemy for the rest of your life. I promise you that.
Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A documentary about Buffy St Marie's life and music career has won an International Emmy Award. Buffy St Marie, Carry It On, won in the Arts Programming category on Monday night. It was directed by Madison Thomas and narrated by St Marie herself. Last month, her Indigenous ancestry was challenged in a CBC investigation. St. Marie denied the accusations before the CBC story aired. There were calls for the Emmy nomination to be rescinded, but a statement posted on the website of White Pine Pictures, who co-produced the documentary, says it stands behind Buffy and believes she is of Canadian Indigenous descent. A post on X from the Indigenous Women's Collective calls the award a slap in the face. It states in part, pretendianism is an act of colonial violence and should never be celebrated. We need to take a quick break. Coming up, we speak with two young Indigenous football players at a football training camp in Alberta who are hoping to make it to the pros one day. Welcome back to APTN National News. The Toronto Raptors teamed up with the city's Transportation Commission to showcase Indigenous athletes from across the country. Tamara Pimentel reports.
Anishinaabe basketball player Emily Mandamin is one of 8 athletes being featured in the campaign, which celebrates Indigenous athletes in Canada. From the Iskatewazaghigan First Nation in northwestern Ontario, Mandamin is enrolled with the Manitoba Bison's basketball program.
At a young age, there's not a lot of representation to look up to. Personally, that's something that I struggled with. Finding somebody that I could relate to and finding somebody that I could talk to or look to for guidance. And so I think that's kind of been the message I've been trying to convey, as well as other athletes at a high level, trying to show that we are here and playing high-level basketball and high-level sports is a thing for us.
The Raptors partnered with the Toronto Transportation Commission for the campaign. Buses and streetcars throughout the city show photos of Indigenous athletes making history in Canada.
Well, that's been our whole goal so far, is telling our stories and talking about the things that we had to go through in order to find our place within sport and wellness. Sport can be a way of medicine and can be a way of life. Oftentimes in Indigenous communities, we find ourselves struggling with substance abuse, mental health issues, poverty. I'm a product of that, and I struggled a lot with my mental health at a young age, but I often found my way at the basketball court. You know, sport can be a happy avenue for us in our future.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And Emily joins Dennis Ward on next week's Face to Face, so watch out for that. An Alberta-based off-season football training program helps young players take the next step in their development. APTN's Chris Stewart spoke to 2 young Indigenous players hoping to make it to the pros one day.
The Dome in Red Deer, Alberta is home to the Alberta International Selects football program. It's run by former CFL and college players and coaches working with youth across Alberta. Today's practice is to prepare for the Pigskins tournament in Las Vegas beginning November 22nd, where scouts will be watching. Coach Jermaine Brown is a former CFL player and director of the Selects.
We're first and foremost allowing each kid to get better in their own individual journey. So some of them are just wanting to get better for next season. Others have big sights, and I'd say probably 80% of them. They all want to go to the next level, meaning post-secondary play, that's college or university, and then all of them will have the big dreams of obviously someday playing professional football.
2 Cree athletes, James Gladue and Z-Ray Buffalo, are here to learn advanced techniques to up their game.
I'm finding it really good. I think I'm doing great. I think everyone else is doing great. It's just a good environment and I'm having fun.
Is this the highest level of competition you faced?
Yeah, for sure.
The talent on display here offers players the possibility to move from being good to great to elite.
I am playing with older guys as well, so the competition is definitely higher and it's a bit raised more. So, it's good because it gets me better and it gets me used to the all-around, game.
Z-Ray Buffalo plays right tackle. He's looking forward to the tournament in Las Vegas.
We're going to play this competition, this tournament. There's 2 teams, I think, we're versing. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited.
Coach Brown says both athletes have the right stuff.
Z-Ray reminds me a little bit of Troy Polamalu. He looks great with the hair coming out of the back of the helmet. James, both of them are very, very, very aggressive. They're tenacious. They're very skilled. We're just looking to hone what they naturally have. James, obviously, very, very gifted running back, a receiver, and one thing I love about them is that they're both, like, they're just laser focused.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Red Deer, Alberta.
We need to take one more short break, but when we come back, a look at the 2023 Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week. The 2023 Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week kicked off in Vancouver this week, and APTN's Tina House was there.
Tonight, it's all about paying tribute to murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls at the 2023 Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week, with this special red dress performance by Butterflies in Spirit, founded by Lorelei Williams.
We're not just a dance group either. We do a lot of frontline work. We are out there supporting families, searching for missing, and we support the ones who are found, the families of the ones who are found deceased as well. And it's really, really hard work. And I just want to say thank you to anybody who is doing this kind of work, because it's hard, it's emotionally draining work.
And this performance is impactful. VIFW is all about the clothes and making a bold statement. Lorelei is wearing this one-of-a-kind red dress made just for this performance.
The inspiration is my family members and my partner's family members, my grandma, my aunt, my cousin, and my partner's aunt, Victoria Buffet, and then of course my dance group, Butterflies in Spirit.
It's a full house at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre, and first up on the runway is Gitxsan fashion designer Yolanda Skelton with her latest collection called Flight for Earth, with Raven opening up the show.
The more I share my culture, the more the people around the world learn about Indigenous people and what we're fighting for. When we're fighting for the water, when we're fighting all of these different things, we're not fighting just for ourselves, we're fighting for everyone. And I'm just so grateful to have fashion as a platform to bring this into awareness.
Next up was fashion designer Ocean Kiana with her collection inspired by her Anishinaabe heritage. And from Inuvialuit was fashion designer Tal Rumik and her unique designs inspired from her Inuit culture and tradition. For Jolene Mitten, who created Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week, she is excited by the caliber of talent from Indigenous designers and models from across the country.
We have All My Relations. We have another great set of designers for you. We have Futures Night, which DJ Shub, which we haven't really promoted yet. And then we have the Spirit of the West Coast, and that's going to be our last night. And then we have our Supernatural Kiki Ball, hosted by Kasalem. So we have a fun-filled week.
The 2023 Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week runs every night until November the 23rd. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
A temporary skate park in central Winnipeg is meeting an important need for a city that sees winter for almost half the year. Sav Jonza has more.
Quarter pipes, grind rails, and cool tricks are taking over a once empty department store in a downtown Winnipeg mall. Pqu Skate Park is something skateboarders in the city have been asking for years.
We need this in our city. Our kids and our youth and our skaters need this.
Amber Clark, Executive Director for Pqu Skate Park, says it aims to be a place for everyone.
We have different nights that are geared towards different skill levels, different ages. You know, there's even BMX night, there's scooter night. Tell your friends, bring them down. We have product, we have completes, we have helmets, we have BMXs. We have all of the things to make this an opportunity for people to learn in this sport.
Events like famous skateboarders dropping by to making medicine pouches are just the tip of the iceberg for the possibilities that the park will bring.
We want to be getting some more programming going, focused on arts, you know, career building. The possibilities are endless. We're hoping to also have like a women's sharing circle that will be running in tandem with our Women in Trans Skate Night on Thursday nights.
An Indigenous-led project, Clark says free admission for Indigenous people is one of the many aspects the park has to offer.
We're working on making it more Indigenous inclusive and having more Indigenous people. We're implementing like an economic reconciliation policy within our own practices and Indigenous hiring policies within our own practices. And, you know, at the end of the day, this is Turtle Island and this is our Indigenous land. What other better reason is there for this to be an Indigenous park with Indigenous people involved in the project?
The skate park opened up on Matthew Chokin's birthday, and he's been coming here every day since. He says skateboarding has been an important part of his life.
It means to me a whole lot because it's definitely contributed to having like a better life, kind of like an out of like the way I grew up personally.
He thinks it's terrific that Indigenous people have a say in what the park becomes.
It encourages a lot of First Nations people and even just like anybody within our city pretty much, like if they need somewhere indoor to go, like whether like they're BMXing, skateboarding, scootering, whatever it is, roller skating. It's a pretty welcoming, accepting place. And I think like First Nations people do a pretty good job of like accepting people as they are.
A temporary pilot project, Clark hopes Pqu Skate Park will remain in the community for a long time.
What I'm looking forward to the most is being able to make this place stay here. You know, I can see what it's doing for the community, and the more people we can bring in and the more of a safe, well-known home that we can make this, then I want that to be more permanent.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And that's all the time we have for your weekend news. But for news anytime, visit our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm Savannah Kelly, Marcy, Miigwech, and thank you for joining us. Have a great night.